we are talking Broncos here on CBS News Colorado. Thanks so much for joining us alongside CBS Colorado sports anchor Rod Mackey. I'm Michael Spencer, hanging out in the sports office because today, legal tampering period, call it whatever you want to call it, it's essentially the start of free agency. And of course, the big news, we now know where Russell Wilson is going. He's heading to Pittsburgh. Rod, your thoughts on that?
Welcome back, by the way, Michael.
Thank
Good
you.
to have you back here in the sports office.
Feels like home.
I think this is, unfortunately, for Bronco fans, this is a great fit for Russ. We were talking about it last night. It's one of those things that the fit never worked here in Denver. First year, second year, it just wasn't. He had the numbers last year. It was impressive, but it just was never a good fit with Sean Payton. I think with Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh, all he does is win, even with, at best, mediocre teams. I think Russ goes in there, not a whole lot of pressure, making $1.2 million while the Broncos pay him nearly $38 million to not play for them. I think he's going to do some special things with the Steelers. Kenny Pickett is the current starter. I think Russ will pass him up. And then, of course, yes, when you look at the schedule, the Denver Broncos will host the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's the game to watch next season.
What kind of reception does Russ get?
Oh, he'll get booed.
Yeah.
He'll get booed for sure. And the thing is, a lot of this is the mistake made by the Broncos. Gave up way too much, paid him way too much, have dug themselves into this horrific hole that we are seeing now with all the moves they're trying to make to salvage next season and the season after that. But Russ didn't put up the numbers he was supposed to put up. It just didn't work out. It's one of the worst NFL trades ever.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
It is going to go down as maybe the worst ever.
Yep.
Okay, so Russ is gone. Justin Simmons, we know, is going to be gone. Lloyd Cushenberry is heading to the Tennessee Titans. Jerry Jeudy, also gone as well. Rod, those are a lot of familiar names. What does this team look like in 2024?
No, it's going to be when you look at this, Russ is gone. Now, the jury's still out. We don't know who the quarterback's going to be to replace him. But as you look at these guys, Lloyd Cushenberry is gone. Is Wattenberg or Forseth going to be better? No, they were backups to him. Jerry Jeudy's gone. The players that they have gotten rid of, it's hard to believe that they're going to bring in players that are better. This is a cost-cutting move. This is all based on what happened with Russ. They released him. They were going to do it next year. That might have maybe made this a little less painful. It's just hard to look at this year's Broncos team from what we're seeing so far and imagine them being better than they were last year. And, of course, last year, they weren't good enough.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is that Broncos country probably in for another tough season. Now, last year in free agency, the Broncos were active, and they were active early this year.
Yeah, McGlinchey, Powers, Stidham, all day one,
like boom,
first
boom,
hour.
Boom.
Yeah.
Obviously a much different situation this year. We do know that they are intending to sign Brandon Jones when the new league year opens. What do you think about that move? Obviously addressing a loss in Justin Simmons.
And that's another one of those guys. So this is a guy who played 4 years for the Dolphins. It sounds like, from everything you've read, a pretty good player. He's not Justin Simmons. It's just another example of Justin Simmons, unbelievable on the field, way better off the field. This was one of the most painful moves the Broncos made, was letting Justin Simmons go away. So Justin's gone. They bring in Brandon Jones. Now, again, this is nothing against Brandon Jones. We don't know what type player he'll be. We've seen him for 4 years in Miami, but it's hard to imagine it's not a step back. The funny thing is, along with P.J. Locke and Caden Stearns, there's now 3 guys who played for Texas in the Broncos defensive backfield. So that's interesting. But again, Justin Simmons being gone, that is a big hole to fill.
Whoever that Broncos regional scout is covering Austin and the surrounding Texas area.
What I got.
Yeah. He seemed to like what they were doing on defense there. Okay, so we know that they need to address quarterback. What other areas does this team need to address in free agency and then moving into the draft next month?
Well, that's the thing that's going to be interesting. They got to get a quarterback. And that's the biggest thing. Are you going to go get a free agent? Are you going to draft a guy in the first round or go back and get a guy in the second round? The answer is all of the above. You're doing both. You have to address a quarterback free agency. You have to address a quarterback in the draft. And then you go from there. We don't know what holes they're going to have to fill here because they keep getting rid of guys. We thought they had to replace a kicker. Will Lutz decided he was going to go play for Jacksonville, replacing Brandon McManus, the former Bronco, and then changed his mind, and now Will is coming back to the Broncos. He's actually not going to the Jags. So at this point, we still don't know what those holes are that they're going to have to fill. Again, I think a lot of these moves are step back because of financial situations, but you look at some of the guys that are gone. Gardner Minshew goes to the Raiders. Kirk Cousins, for $180 million, goes to the Falcons. I know some people had talked about, obviously that wasn't going to happen. So who do they get? They got to get somebody in here. I don't think there's many people that believe Jarrett Stidham is the answer at quarterback for the Denver Broncos.
The one thing we do know is that there will be more moving pieces throughout the offseason and throughout the draft. And, of course, you, Romy Bean, and Richie Cozzolino going to do a great job.
I just want to emphasize this because it's going to be a rough season for the Broncos. Remember, we do have the Nuggets and we do have the Avalanche. So let's leave it at that.
And thank goodness
yes.
for that, right? You, Romy,
and
Richie.
We have McKinnon and we have the Joker. We've got the two best teams and we've got the two best players. So I know it's kind of rough right now with the Broncos with what we think, but let's go glass half full. We have other good teams.
Mr. Positive right here, always shining a bright light on the sports situation here in Colorado. As I mentioned, you, Romy, and Richie do a great job breaking it all down for us, and you will have more coverage throughout the offseason right here on CBS News Colorado.